playing the victim card, as Sid the Sloth does after every horrible game she has, is something I will not do after underscore all over the court. She has defeated the league's lowest 3 teams in each of her 4 victories. If we play Chicago again, I swear I'll dump 40 on them. Next, I will trademark the phrase "Caitlin owns me," following the WNBA's final punishment of Caitlin Clark's tacker. It's not an exaggeration either. The league was illuminated by a single eye poke and a vicious takedown. The alleged penalty is blatantly unfair, and she was mad at Sheldon. And skilled at basketball, being attractive, and having tenacity are all factors that make you a bad person. Furthermore, I believe that this is one of the new trends in the WNBA that is currently occurring, in addition to your skill as a basketball player. Some of these women don't look like women, don't they? They used to look like guys, but now they appear to be gorgeous women playing hoops. But is the WNBA experiencing a far larger breakdown? Or is this just about one bird? What do you think? I believe we haven't questioned you about the WNBA in general, the current Caitlin moment, and this new age of women's basketball. Apparently, I adore it. I believe it's because I enjoy competition. It's fantastic for the game, in my opinion. I believe that people think of us when they watch basketball and imagine the sport to be competitive, physical, and a touch chippy. However, I believe W to be equally competitive, if not more so. Do you understand? Something that has the potential to bring everything to an end. Caitlin Clark is in the center of it. Because the league clearly misjudged the situation if they believed that the $2,000 punishment was sufficient. It was meant to be a standard possession, simply another defensive switch between the Connecticut Sun and the Indiana Fever. It became much more repulsive when Jacy Sheldon stepped in to protect Caitlin Clark. Sheldon did more than simply reach in. Her hand immediately reached out and prodded Clark's cheek. She looked her in the eye. What actually caused this to escalate? Thus, it was referred to as a blatant. The audience let out a gasp. Clearly in pain, Clark fell backward and clutched her face. And yet, it was a blatant one with no warning or dismissal. The ball is a long distance off. The ball is here, literally. The ball has arrived. The ball has arrived. How did she play poker? The ball has arrived. How, for example, did the officials see this and decide it was a flagger one? How did they determine that it was a flagrant and not one at the same time? For example, how did they determine that it is a flagrant rather than a flagrant 2? If they had stated no call, I would have respected them more, since they could at least be in ignorance, though not enough to imply purpose. A foul was called for needless contact. That's all, and a $2,000 fine for Sheldon. It didn't end there, despite what you would have thought. Shortly after, Sheldon took hold of Clark's arm, and based on slow-motion replay video, sunk her fingernails into her flesh. Additionally, during this specific game, Caitlin Clark repeatedly claimed that she was itching her arm and protested to the officials regarding it. And to be honest, they were jawing at one another the entire game. They were exchanging chirps. Marina Mabrey is always there to support her colleagues. Marina Mabrey then rushed in, pushing Clark to the ground like it was a wrestling ring while she spun. As you can see, Caitlin Clark is being protected by Jacy Sheldon. She gives her an eyeball swipe. Caitlin Clark nudges her away since Jacy continues to stare at her. Subsequently, Tina Charles approaches Caitlin Clark and gestures with her finger. Then, without warning, Marina Mabrey throws her to the ground. Let's now view this in slow motion. Caitlin is being protected by Jacy Sheldon, takes a whack at her face. One is vying for the ball, hits her eyeball with a swipe. It will be necessary for Caitlin to start wearing goggles. In a fit of rage, Marina Mabrey throws Caitlin Clark to the ground when Caitlin pushes her away, asking, "Why are you still in my face?" It wasn't just a foul call for Clark. No one was defending her, and she was being targeted. #such. As band Jacy Sheldon became popular within hours. Smeierskaldent, the year's dirtiest play, flooding Sheldon's social media. In a single day, one of the incident's videos received over 1 million views. On his show, Jimmy Fallon questioned what's going on in the WNBA. Protect Caitlin Clark at all costs. The caption said, "This isn't basketball. It's a disgrace. At all means, keep Caitlin Clark safe. Stop this. Please. Please." Not holding back either, Dave Portnoy referred to Sheldon and Mabrey as envious loser punks. The WNBA was being publicly compared to the WWE by late-night broadcasters and sports journalists who said that the league was becoming a spectacle. Fans weren't just angry. They were incensed when Sheldon wasn't punished and the league only imposed a fine before moving on. As this was not the first instance, it fits into a pattern. Clark has been elbowed, shoved, undercut, and now has another poke in the eye. Additionally, the league shrugs whenever the referees turn away, leaving Clark to defend herself. What had happened to the chip? Did you receive an explanation for the tech you received? Well, let me handle the formal inquiries. The tech she received had no explanation. I believe it was rather clear that something was going on, don't you think? This has been going on all season long. When the officials lose control of the game, when they let that kind of thing happen, tone during the entire season. This game is not the only one. It has persisted throughout the season. This is what occurs, isn't it? This is the result. I take it that you have competitive ladies that are the finest in their field. Additionally, they will compete and support their teammates if you let them play physically and let these instances occur. The intense competition is just what you would expect, isn't it? Here's why that is a huge issue, though. Caitlin Clark is more than a novice. She represents the WNBA, Dr. Ryan Brewer, a financial specialist, claims that Clark was responsible for 26.5% of the league's total revenue during her first season. That's one player responsible for more than 25% of the league's earnings. Take a moment to process that. Once a team with minimal attendance, the Indiana Fever now sell out arenas all night. Clark is to blame for everything. In a single season, their franchise worth increased from $90 million to $340 million. She does more than simply sell tickets. She's selling merchandise, setting records, and attracting fans who have never seen a WNBA game before. She's being treated like a disposable rookie. Despite this, left uncovered, pushed to the ground, and stabbed in the eye. The fans don't like it. Would the NBA ever let this happen to LeBron James or Steph Curry? They question. Would a player still be on the court if he blindsided LeBron, jabbed him in the eye, and smashed him to the ground? That's right. Then the unexpected occurred. Jacy's Sheldon lost his temper. Following the announcement of the penalty, Sheldon was observed leaving the court, refusing to be interviewed and smashing her water bottle. To Sheldon, this was more than just a fine, it was a character assassination, according to team sources. She was heard yelling, "This is a joke. They're throwing me under the bus." She believed that in order to save their golden ticket, the league had used her as a scapegoat. And given that Sheldon is currently popular with everyone, perhaps she is not mistaken for the wrong reasons. She is being portrayed as the bad guy, the cheap shot artist, and the embodiment of all the issues with the way the WNBA handles its players. She is not alone in her outbursts either. No other players have spoken up. However, the animosity is intensifying behind the scenes. Some others think the league is manipulating everything to put Clark in the spotlight. Sheldon believes that the league is discriminating against her. The supporters are rapidly increasing in the meantime. Sheldon should be suspended and paid, according to one online petition. In under 48 hours, Doc gathered nearly 25,000 signatures. Fans want more than bans, and some are tagging NBA Commissioner Adam Silver to ask him to intervene since, quote, the WNBA commissioner won't. They're requesting referee accountability evaluations that are publicly monitored, immediate ejections for face-hitting incidents, fines based on salary percentages rather than flat fees. and multi-game suspensions for egregious crimes against well-known players are all mentioned. Some even propose paying the victim in this case, Caitlin Clark, the penalty directly. The existing system isn't functioning. Fans also threaten to cease watching the WNBA if it continues to ignore them. This goes beyond Jacy Sheldon. Caitlin Clark isn't even the only person involved. The question here is whether the WNBA is prepared to defend the very thing that is sustaining it. Because if this continues, if Clark suffers a catastrophic injury or decides she's had enough, the league will lose not just a player but also its biggest source of income, its biggest attraction, and even its future. Sheldon, she simply turned into Thea Lightning Rod for everything. What fans have been speculating about for weeks is confirmed by her reaction. The league is playing with fire, the players are tense, and the locker rooms are divided. The WNBA is at a turning point. Stricter regulations, more player protection, and a significant investment in the league's future are the outcomes of one route. The other immediately devolves into mayhem, with celebrities like Clark leaving, sponsors withdraw, and fans leave. The future of the world is uncertain at the moment. Will the WNBA act before it's too late? That is the true question. Basketball is no longer the only thing at stake. It's a high-stakes business, personal, and political. So, is Jacy Sheldon the bad guy here? Or is she merely the most recent victim of a league gone awry? Put down your comments with your ideas. I promise you that the drama is just beginning. So if you're furious about the way this league is being managed, press the like button, subscribe, and enable notifications. Music, okay, you guys? Let's have a conversation. I just got done watching the Connecticut Sun versus Indiana Fever game. That one was crazy. That was really surprising. Things became hot. Everything turned bad. This was not anticipated. One of the most outrageous fights of the season broke out from what should have been a furious WNBA game. The Indiana Fever met the Connecticut Sun yesterday. Although it was a basketball contest, other factors greatly eclipsed the basketball itself. It all began when Caitlin Clark, a standout for the Indiana Fever, received a vicious eye poke from Jacy Sheldon. But rather of leveling off, the game became unmanageable. In the last moments, Sophie Cunningham rushed in and attacked Sheldon in a startling manner. Everyone was shocked by what transpired next. A number of players were dismissed. Referees had to deal with past discoveries. On Charles Mab, foul. Whoa. Would Baba continue playing this game? The league as a whole is now being criticized. It's been dubbed the season's ugliest moment by some. Some claim it's only the beginning. Why is the WNBA imposing its most severe punishments ever? And what actually happened on that court? Let's dissect everything. Hello, I'm Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever's guard. Music, if you get bumped, you'll get hit from 3. The Indiana Fever had a lot of energy going into this match. Caitlin Clark had been absorbing more blows than any rookie should have to face as they battled through a difficult part of the season. The opponents were becoming violent. Too physical, some would say. When the illness struck the court, tensions were already high. The tone of the game was established in the opening few minutes. Players bumping each other after whistles, hard fouls, and trash talk. It was evident that the irritation was growing. And in the center of it all was Caitlin Clark. The biggest star in the league was targeted once more, but no one saw what was coming. During a difficult moment halfway through the game, Jacy Sheldon became entangled with Caitlin Clark. Sheldon abruptly extended his hand and jabbed Clark in the eye. The audience let out a gasp. Clark, obviously startled, winced in agony. As she attempted to shake her eye off, cameras captured her wiping it. Your face, I believe. That's what Clark found objectionable. However, this was not your typical foul. The players and fans were aware of it, and the enthusiasm might changed in the arena. Caitlin Clark is being protected by Jacy Sheldon, as you can see above. She gives her an eyeball swipe, Jacy keeps getting in her face, so Caitlin Clark nudges her away. Subsequently, Tina Charles approaches Caitlin Clark and gestures with her finger. Then, without warning, Marina Mabrey throws her to the ground. Let's now view this in slow motion. Caitlin is being protected by Jacy Sheldon. Hits her face with a swipe. One is vying for the ball. Hits her eyeball with a swipe. It will be necessary for Caitlin to start wearing goggles. In a fit of rage, Marina Mabrey throws Caitlin Clark to the ground when Caitlin pushes her away, asking, "Why are you still in my face?" Marina Mabrey of Indiana didn't fold on. Show Sheldon that the Fever were not going to back down. She charged in and bumped into him. The officials intervened immediately in an attempt to restore order. But the atmosphere had already shifted. In this specific match, Caitlin Clark repeatedly complained to the umpires about feeling like she was clawing her arm. And to be honest, they were jawing at one another the entire game. They were exchanging chirps. We all know Marina Mabrey, so she's constantly on the sidelines supporting her teammates. However, Sophie Cunningham's strong foul on Jacy Sheldon was the real turning point. And I genuinely believe that she was sending a message to the leagues and the officiating staff, as well as to everyone else, because if you watch any of these games, you'll notice that the Indiana Fever are refereed differently than the others, held to a standard that is unmatched by any other team. Every property felt like it could start a fight after that. Things ultimately came to a head with less than a minute left to play. Jacy Sheldon drove hard to the rim for a layup, but Sophie Cunningham came swooping in and completely destroyed her before she could finish. The steal is Sheldon's idea. From one coast to the next, we have another. It wasn't nuanced. Cunningham raised his arms. Sheldon was knocked to the ground by her body. The whole arena exploded. There has been trash talk everywhere. Flagrants, technicals, and other things had been going on. Sophie Cunningham grabbed Jacy Sheldon and gave her a hard foul as she was sprinting down the court for a fast break layup. This was Sophie, I believe. This was the final 46 seconds of the game. They were much up. Sophie may have been attempting to tell the league, the referees, and everyone else listening that the Indiana Fever had had enough, and that this is what was going to happen. The players ran in the direction of the scene. Coaches were yelling. The crowd stood up. Some shouted incredulously, others cheering. It appeared less like a basketball contest and more like a boxing battle. But let me see a combo. Oh. Referees rushed to intervene between the players. A few tumultuous minutes later, they called. Lindsay Allen, Jacy Sheldon, and Sophie Cunningham were all removed from the game. Caitlin Clark is guilty. Charles, was a detective foul? It's Marina Mabrey's technical foul. Whoa, will Bavor continue playing this game? The audience was in a state of shock. Numerous players may have been tossed in addition to the 3 that were out. Social media took off. Of the dirtiest moments in recent memory, according to fans, videos of the altercation quickly went viral on X and TikTok. One writer even made the jest. It might be necessary to swap out the after this one, hardwood with a boxing ring. However, the fallout was only beginning. After watching the game footage, the WNBA took swift action. The referees will undoubtedly evaluate the play following this because there was a lot of contact during that play, a lot of pointless interaction. This play involves a great deal of non-basketball contact, correct? Since I don't believe any of the 3 officials had ever officiated a professional basketball game in their lives, I'd like to suggest that they got them right out of Sephora. They brought these referees over to the monitor where they studied it for, I'm not exaggerating, about 15 minutes. 15 minutes they are repeatedly viewing this play. Indeed, they are. For losing control of the game, referee Blanca Burns received the most severe punishment the league has ever imposed, a hefty fine and public censure. Both Sheldon and Cunningham received suspensions and fines. Penalties were also given to other players who participated in the turmoil. and the league's reputation is currently being criticized from all directions. The league waited too long to intervene, according to several fans. Others contend that the players didn't after weeks of uncalled fouls and escalating tensions, especially with Caitlin Clark being singled out game after game. They had no option but to strike back. Even commentators have differing opinions. This event is creating headlines for the wrong reasons, and the WNBA can't afford another one ESPN expert stated. The greater question now is, has the league really lost control? Because one thing's. So, after all of this, where does the WNBA go from here? Fans are still debating what exactly led to this altercation. Were the referees losing control? Were the players going too far? Or was it just the result of a league that hasn't done enough to protect its biggest star, Caitlin Clark? Certainly. With Caitlin Clark still receiving criticism every week and players like Sophie Cunningham prepared to fight back. This won't be the last time we see fireworks on the court is evident. Tensions remain high, and the upcoming game between these teams is already being dubbed a must-watch. Will the players calm down, or will there be another explosion on the court? How will the league react if this occurs again? Because if the WNBA is unable to stop players like Sophie Cunningham from taking matters into their own hands, and if Caitlin Clark is targeted, this season mightn't be beginning. Keep an eye out.